What's going on, everybody? This is Radish Head with the Upland Analysis, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 most developed neighborhoods in the Upland metaverse. Now, when I'm talking about most developed, I'm talking about the neighborhoods that have the most structures completed. Upland have already said that in the future, more additional collections are going to be added to the game in neighborhoods or streets based on a development ranking, and that's going to include the number of finished structures built on properties in that neighborhood. So if you get in on some of these neighborhoods now, it's possible they may be worth more in the future when Upland decides to introduce those development-based collections. So let's get on with the list. At number 10, we have the South of Market District in San Francisco. And at about 5.5% of all of these properties have a completed building on them. The neighborhood is also very centrally located in a fantastic part of San Francisco, which means that the floor price is about $43K, which is about double the base price in San Francisco as a whole. San Francisco, of course, is the Genesis city of Upland, so you're going to probably expect to see quite a lot of San Franciscan neighborhoods on this list. Coming in just above South of Market, at 5.5% completed buildings, is the Oaks in Bakersfield. Interesting thing about the Oaks is being in Bakersfield, the prices are a lot lower, so if you wanted to get in on a neighborhood that's up and coming and is very well developed, the floor price here in UpX is only about 19,000, so quite accessible for the average player. And this also has 200 completed buildings, so it's not just a high percent of buildings, but it's actually also just overall a lot of spark has been invested into this neighborhood, so definitely an interesting one to check out, the Oaks. For number 8, we're back in San Francisco, this time in Laurel Heights, and really, do I need to say any more? Just look at this screen, look at all of these beautiful finished structures side by side, all colourful and yet, perfectly in sync with each other. It's a lovely, lovely neighbourhood. Prices start at about 30 to 35,000 UpX if you want to get in on Laurel Heights and the development plan here. And just a little bit to the south of Laurel Heights, we have our number 7 contender on this list, which is Panhandle, again in San Francisco. The prices here are a little more expensive than Laurel Heights at about 45 to 50K UpX floor. That kind of reflects the fact that 1, there's slightly more development going on in this province, and 2, there's just fewer properties overall. So as you can see, it's a little bit more spaced out in terms of the structures, but they are certainly there, and that's why Panhandle is number 7 on my list. For our next most developed neighborhood, we're sticking with San Francisco. This time we're in the Marina neighborhood. This is also the only neighborhood on this list which I personally own a property. I just think it's a fantastic location on the coast, and just look at all these lovely colourful structures that are available to buy and sell. Starting prices here about 40 to 45K. Which I think is quite accessible for a part of San Francisco that I believe is likely to continue to increase in value in the future. For number 5, we are sticking to the San Francisco coast, but this time in the far more exclusive neighborhood of Sea Cliff, at 10.1% completed buildings. This is also an exclusive San Francisco collection, which means the prices here are the highest on the list, with a floor of 550,000 UpX, if you can believe it, to be a part of this neighborhood. So, rich uplanders need only apply. quite a significant jump now to 16.9% completed buildings for our number 4 contender, which is Midtown Terrace in San Francisco. Look at the coordination that's on display here. Just all of these lovely structures all lined up in a row. The floor price here is about 220,000 UPIX, which is a lot of money, but I think there's clearly a plan for this neighbourhood, and I'm considering getting involved here myself if I could scrape the funds together to do so. We're in the top 3, and we are not in San Francisco. This is Little Italy in Fresno, and wow, this has over 20% of the buildings, or 20% of the properties in here contained a finished structure, and you can tell, I mean, it's not a big neighborhood, but yes, there has been a lot of work done here. Very impressive. Floor price here is understandably very high for Fresno, about 250,000 UPIX if you want to be a part of what's going on here in Little Italy. It's right next to the train station, so super central location. Very exciting stuff. You didn't think we'd seen the last of San Francisco, did you? Well, remember when we were talking about Laurel Heights and Panhandle earlier? Well, just down the road we've got Alamo Square with an extremely impressive 23% of the properties now have a finished structure built on them. And unbelievably, the floor price here is technically 350,000 UPIX, but I do want to mention that there's only one property in Alamo Square that has a sale price of below 2 million. So yes, once that one property is bought up, Alamo Square is certainly going to be one of the most exclusive neighbourhoods in all of Upland, and for good reason. I mean, look at all of these wonderful structures. And finally, at number 1, we are not in San Francisco. In fact, we are in Mosswood in Oakland. And I think this is just unbelievable. We've already got over a quarter of all the properties in Mosswood have completed structures. And you can just tell by looking at my screen, there are a lot more of those still to come. I mean, look at all these yet to be completed structures. We're probably going to be at 50% before long, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that one. And just the fact that Mosswood is not in San Francisco, you know, this isn't a Genesis City where this all began. I think it goes to show what a massive impact players can have on the metaverse if they group together like the Icon Collective have, who are a majority owner of Mosswood. If a group of players can come together and decides they want to turn a neighbourhood into something incredible, they absolutely can. I think that's what Mosswood is all about, and I just think it's fantastic to look at. But with that, that's my number 1. That is, as of now, the top 10 most developed neighbourhoods in all of Upland. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see similar projects like this in the future, I'd love it if you gave me a like. And just let me know in the comments if there's any similar or completely different videos that you'd like me to do in the future. I enjoyed doing this one, and I'm looking forward to reading your replies. So, until next time, see ya.